Okay, I hope you all had a great lunchtime. I hope you are not going to take your nap too soon. And we are going to talk about documentation. It's a great topic. So just before that, who am I? Olivier Jourdan. I started developing with LabVIEW in the previous century. I'm the founder of Wovalab, and I'm a board member of the DQMH Consortium. As an independent consultant, I'm mainly helping people designing and developing LabVIEW program. But I also help them with the entire process, from using Git to setting up CI/CD processes. And I also try to help them improving the way they are writing documentation for their program. So last year, I did a presentation, and at GDevCon, in the last slide, I introduced the docs as code approach. And I'm really glad to have the opportunity today to dive more into this new approach to write documentation. And I promise this will be the last presentation about documentation. So just for 25 minutes. Quick disclaimer. Today I'm going to present you my way to implement the docs as code approach. If you try to do it, you will obviously adapt it to your own context, so you will change things. So if in today's presentation you are getting one or two things that help you improve your own process, I will be really glad of that. And just to notice, everything I'm going to show you, examples, tools I'm using, are open source. You can find it on GitLab. Even the presentation is available on GitLab as an open source presentation. So if you want to use it after that, feel free to do it. So docs as code. In one sentence, it's trying to bring the documentation into your development workflow. And the goal of that is to remove the pain points. I think you probably have some pain points when you write documentation, if you write documentation. Focus on writing content and deliver the documentation with the code. You release a new version of your application, of your API, of your tool. It's better to have the documentation up to date when you deliver the new version of the tool you are delivering. So for that, there are some things you can do related to the docs as code approach. First thing, it's really easy. You don't need any tools to do it. But you need to make the documentation part of the definition of done. When you are developing a new feature, fixing a bug, to say that I'm done with this work, you should prove that the documentation is up to date. So bring the documentation into your workflow. The second thing is we are using Git, SVN with our LabVIEW code because we want to keep track of changes. We want to work in team. We are going to do the same with our documentation. Put the documentation into our repositories. And probably, if you do that, using Microsoft Word document or using a CRM is not the right way to put your documentation in your repository. So you should probably use a markup language and make your documentation available in a plain text file using a specific syntax. There are lots of markup language available. My favorite is Asciidoc. And those files are going to be the source code of your documentation. When you are developing LabVIEW project, sometimes you are creating tools to help you generate code via scripting. DQMH framework, for example, gives you lots of tools to generate code. We can do the same to generate content in our documentation. This will remove the repetitive tasks, and you can use your time to write the content that is really important, that adds value to your documentation. And the last point is, as we do with our development, we need to automate tasks. We can test our documentation. We can test the vocabulary, the spelling, the URL in your documentation. There are tools that can be used for testing this kind of errors. You can build your documentation, because we are using plain text file. You are not going to deliver your documentation as a text file. So you need to create a PDF, an HTML, or a website. So you need to do it automatically. And then, at the end, you want to deliver the documentation. So same thing, it should be something automated. Let's dive into some examples. The first example I want to show you is the DQMH Consortium Style Guide. This is a document we released last year that gather all the programming best practices we think we should follow when developing LabVIEW program. And this document is available in two different formats, PDF and HTML. So, what is the process and the tools we are using for creating this document? The content is written manually using the Asciidoc syntax. This is a syntax straightforward to learn. And we have this plain text file, and we are using Asciidoc to process this plain text file to generate a PDF and an HTML file. If you want to know more about Asciidoc and Asciidoc, I encourage you to watch my presentation of last GDevCon. And to manage the entire project, we use a GitLab project that gives us the repository, the issue tracker, so we can know what we need to add, what we need to fix in the documentation. And we have all the CI/CD features provided by GitLab. So if we look at a picture of the process, we are writing the ad hoc file, and then as soon as we push the modification into the repository, Asciidoc is generating the HTML and the PDF. So from one source, we get two different file formats, and then through a FTP transfer, we are releasing the document. Here, the workflow is really important, because we are creating a document with a specific version. So we are using the semantic versioning. So we use Git flow as the workflow. When we are pushing modification on the develop branch or feature branches, we add a draft watermark in our PDF and in our HTML. So we can see that this is a beta version of the document. And we upload the files in a specific place in our website so we can see the rendering, etc. And when we are ready to release the new version, we are pushing on the release branch, and we render the PDF without the watermark, and we upload the files to the correct place in our website so everyone can access it. So what we get? On the left, you can see the PDF generated during the development phase. You can see the draft watermark. You can also see on the right the PDF of a release version. So we don't have the draft watermark. All this thing is automated. We also have traceability things in our process. If it's not working, why? Oh, never mind. In the first page, you can see the screen is big enough. You have the version, and on the left, this is a draft version, and you have the date of the generation and the SHA-1 number related to the commit version. On the right, you have the version and the same information. All these things are automated. Another interesting thing, and we like as a developer to reuse code, and as a writer, we can like to reuse part of the text. This document is available as open source, so we have a license in it. And this part of the document, the license, is included from another file. So if we are changing the file and the wording of the license, the next generation of the document is going to get the modification without doing anything than just pushing modification on the repository. So what we get from the docs as code approach here, we have an auto-rendering of the final documents. We have a content adaptation. We have the draft watermark. We have the traceability information. And we have the auto-delivery deployment of the file. So we are 5 at the consortium, and we can all modify the document and get the document released really easily without bothering of the entire process, because everything is automated. So it's really fast for us to release a new version of the document. Second example, it's about the open source projects I'm developing and maintaining at Wovalab. The idea was to have a single website gathering all the information of all the projects and all the versions of the projects. So I tried to build a static website. So I still using Asciidoc syntax to write the content. I'm also generating automatically some content using Antidoc. And each open source project contains its documentation in the repository. And I'm using Antora, a static website generator, to build the website. If we look at the picture of the process, you can see that we have different projects. In all those projects, I have a branch, a docs branch, for each version I want to document. And when I push something new, the automated tasks are going to trigger Antora, build a website, and then share the website through Pages feature, GitLab Pages feature. And we have this website. And this website, you can see on the left all the projects with all the documented versions. So I can, if I'm using the version, I don't know why my mousepad is not working. Anyway, you can go to each version of the toolkit, the documentation of each version here. On the right, you have a search bar, and you also have on the top right corner a small link to edit the page you are reading. So as an open source project, you can also contribute. You can contribute to the code itself, but also to the documentation. So if you want to improve a page, fix a spelling, you can edit this page, create a merge request, and I will build the new website version through the CI/CD process. And in this website, this is important to note that we are documenting the version of the toolkit. And we don't have a specific version number for each modification of the document, because we can improve the documentation of an older version of the toolkit. It's still interesting to try to improve the documentation. So what we get with the docs as code approach here, we have the auto build of the website. I don't really know HTML, CSS things, etc. So it's great. I don't have to take care of that. The documentation can deal with multiple projects and multiple versions. And it's really straightforward to contribute. So we talk about docs as code approach concepts. We saw some examples, but how are we writing the content? So the first thing, we will need to write content manually. So it's not changing. My setup is to use Visual Studio Code, which is a free application, with the Asciidoc extension. With this extension, you are going to have the color highlighting of the syntax, so it's going to help you to write your document. And you have real-time preview of your document on the right of the page. Obviously, you will need to learn a bit of Asciidoc syntax, and the documentation is really well done. It's done with Antora and written in Asciidoc syntax. Seems obvious. And we also can generate content automatically. For that, I'm using two projects available on VIPM and open source. The Asciidoc for LabVIEW Toolkit and Antidoc. Asciidoc for LabVIEW Toolkit is a really simple toolkit that helps you getting text file with the Asciidoc syntax. So if you can parse your code or anything with LabVIEW, have some data to put in a document, you create the code to get this information, and then you use this toolkit to generate the ad hoc file, so you can get the HTML or PDF file. That's the first thing you can do. The second thing you can do is to use Antidoc. So Antidoc is using the Asciidoc for LabVIEW Toolkit, but it's adding all the parsing tasks. You can use it as a tool in LabVIEW with the UI on the left, but it's already available for command line interface. So there is a custom tool available on VIPM, so you can already integrate this documentation generation into your CI/CD process. Antidoc is based on an add-on architecture. So we have two add-ons currently. The first add-on is to build documentation about your LabVIEW project. Here, this is the documentation of an example of interfaces you can find in the LabVIEW examples. So we are listing all the classes and interfaces. We are displaying the class diagram, and we are documenting all the different classes. You can get more information on DQMH if you are using DQMH, on libraries, on classes, etc., etc., and on JKI state machine too, It was one of the latest version of this add-on. So this is one add-on. And the second one is the add-on that can help you document toolkits. So if you have controls in the palette, you can use the MNU file to generate this kind of document with all the pictures of the palettes and all the VI with their descriptions and the connector pane, etc. And this document is ready to use, I would say. But you can use the Antidoc file generated to copy-paste the results into the website. On this page of the website I showed you earlier, all the content is generated automatically. And this is not a content that is adding lots of value if you need to write it. If you take 4 hours to write it, it's not really interesting. So if we can do it automatically, it's better. So because it's an add-on architecture, you can also create your own add-on. You can start from an existing add-on and modify it to add your own flavor. But you can also create your own add-on and get all the feature Antidoc is providing, all the settings you can do, the generation of the document, etc. You are just focusing on parsing your content and formatting the content. And speaking of new add-on, Leah, I don't know where she is. Oh, there. So Leah is currently developing a new add-on for Teston. And this is a work in progress. You can see some picture of what you can get so far. And it's going to document the Teston sequences. So if you want to chat with Leah, I think she will be really happy to talk about this new add-on. One more tool that can generate some content for your documentation. You probably heard about Lumos. This is a new tool the DQMH Consortium is going to release before the end of the year. You can pre-order it if you want on our website. And it's going to draw the sequence diagram of the communication between the modules. So it's drawing dynamically when you run your application. And this content can be easily added to your documentation. So, conclusion about the docs as code approach. You can't forget to write the documentation if you use the docs as code approach, because it's part of your development process. And because you are automating lots of tasks, you can focus on really writing document, and you are going to focus on the content because you are using plain text files, so no issue with Microsoft things, tables not at the right places, etc., etc., for example. And because you have a process, you can increase the number of contributors. It's straightforward to explain them. You have this Git project, you have those text files. If you want to modify the content, just modify this text file and push. It's going to update your document at the end. And because it's part of your development process, at the end, the documentation is up to date when you release the new version of your product. One final word from Dan Allen. This is the main developer of Asciidoc and Antora. A talented tech writer is worth as much as a talented developer. Good prose is no more or less complex to write than good code. So yeah, we need people that write documentation. You can have the best processes. It's not going to make the work for you. So having those processes, I think, can free time for developer to write. You can onboard new contributors to your document. So it's not magical, but it will help, I think. That's it. thank you for your attention. If you have questions, I will be happy to reply, but please don't ask me how you can still use Microsoft Word and implement Docs as Code approach. I don't know. Thank you.
Hello. Hey, thanks for the presentation. I just wanted to ask, let's say you already had a project completed and you wanted to use your project toolkit. Is there a best practice for, I don't know, automating the outline of the documentation or anything like that?
You want to use Antidoc on an existing project?
Yeah, let's just say we had a project, it was already built, but there's no documentation, and we, for instance, wanted to use your toolkit to automate the generation of an outline of...
The first thing you can do is to install Antidoc with the project add-on and just run it, and you will see what you get. Because you will have the PDF or the HTML at the end. It should be interesting at first. if you are, just from my experience, I had to do some code review of DQMH project. And people just gave me the Antidoc output. And we did 4 hours just pointing things, starting from the documentation. And just, let's go to this module. There should be something wrong there. And it was pretty much correct. So first thing is install it, use the tools menu in LabVIEW, run it on your project, and you will have something. After, if you want to automate this, use the CLI tool to generate the documentation. This is something I have on all my projects. I'm generating the documentation each time I'm delivering something to the customer. And it's just the documentation of the source code. It's not the documentation of the application. This is still probably something we can have with a new add-on, but it's, I think, not straightforward to get the documentation of the UI.
Yeah, thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you for a great presentation. Are there any options for customizing the layout, or are you just married to the one that Antidoc provides?
You can customize it if you are forking the add-on. And then you can change the way all the sections are displayed. This is the only way to do it now. So yeah, I will recommend you to do that. And I know that I must do some choices, and it's not fitting everyone's needs, so that's the way to do it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I love the approach and the model. Are there any plans, or did I miss this, for inheritance or extensibility in the model? Like parent documents, child documents, overrides?
With Asciidoc syntax, you can include files. So there's no real plan. There is an issue that probably created more than 1 year ago, to be able to add manual written ad hoc files into the document generated by Antidoc. So you can include anything in an ad hoc file. So you can have some sort of inheritance in your documentation. There's no specific plan to do that on my side.
Hi. So I have two questions. I'm here, right in front of you. The first is there a way to kind of control the order? I was just trying it while you were talking, and the order in which the classes or the libraries are sorted, because
The order is the order in the LabVIEW project.
okay, yeah, so
That's the order. So you can move classes in your project and you will have the...
I could have an own project just for the documentation, just to make
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
And then the second, I see you support DQMH, but is there any more support for Actor Framework?
I should have had it. It's an open source project, so any contribution are welcome. I'm not really using the Actor framework, so I'm not really... it's not easy for me to write this part of the code. One difficulty with the Actor framework is that because we are using classes, sometimes it's difficult to know which actor is launched, just analyzing the code statically. With DQMH, it's really easy to know that you are launching module A, B, C at this specific part of the code. I would be really happy to have this, documentation added to Antidoc. I'm not sure I'm going to work on it in the future, in a short-term future. But yeah, it's an open source project, so I will be really happy to help people to contribute on this part of the code. And it's working with DQMH, with classes, and JK state machine. So we can add it. Just need to learn how to parse an Actor framework project so we can get valuable information in the documentation.
Just
Thank you.
just hunt down the calls of launch root and launch nested actor. I'm over here. I don't. Over here,
with
off the
that.
side of off stage left. Yeah, we should just be able to find use scripting to grab launch root, launch nested, and actor and find their callers. Those callers will be parts of actors, and that would tell you who's launching what. Now, if you're doing dependency injection and you don't know necessarily which specific actor you're launching, then you can't do that.
Yeah.
But what you would want to show in the documentation is that actor A can launch any actor of this interface class I. So we should be able to do that. I'm happy to talk with you or anybody about how we can proceed. And if I have some off time, I'd be happy to work on this. I may have some over the winter.
Let's just add something in the Discord channel.
Okay.
On
Yeah,
the
I'll put
presentation,
something
and
there.
I will be happy to talk with anyone.
Yeah, but it should just be. I mean, we actually do the same kind of thing with the rescripting tools because it's like, oh, we've got to rescript a message. What class are we a part of that we have to rescript this message to? So that's an easy thing to find in scripting.
And we can do it step by step.
Yep.
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 Yep. And the class part would actually work just fine. So if you document the classes portion of an AF project, that's all going to work the way you expect it to.
Okay. Let's catch up later.
Cheers. So I didn't have a question. Yeah, so first off, thanks for the great presentation and putting this toolkit together. I've been using it quite extensively for a test sequencer and generating my test reports. And in terms of extensibility and customizability, the great thing is Asciidoc is used by the outside world. And so you can just Google Asciidoc, Google the syntax, and extend it, customize your reports just by copy and paste, essentially copying from Stack Overflow and implementing it in your own code. And it's really straightforward to do, straightforward to customize if you know which bits to press.
GPT can write ADOC.
Thanks for your comment.
Good stuff. Thank you very much, Olivier. We'll leave it at
Thank
that.
you.
Thank you.